everybody, and welcome back to the Bay Bolts channel. As always, my name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me is my good friend and co-host, Michael Wax. Michael, the Tampa Bay Lightning are playing in the Stanley Cup Finals for the second year in a row. And today we got to take a look at our series preview, looking at the matchups here as the Lightning will be taking on the Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's the second time the Lightning have played a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals, but it is the first time the Lightning have played the Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup Final. As with all the divisions being all over the place this year, the Canadiens were in the West for the first time. So it should be a fun matchup, and we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. The Lightning earned their way here, and the Canadians really earned their way here as the lower seed. Canadians are a really talented team. Three upsets in a row, but they're playing a style that not a lot of people understand how good they've gotten recently. We want to do a bit of a deep dive into how good they've gotten, what key player has really fueled their late season surge, and how the Lightning might be able to combat that as well.
Let's break this down in a couple of sections as we always do. There'll be timestamps or chapters below so you can skip to certain sections if you would like. But starting off as we always do with the series schedule. So game number one is going to get underway on Monday, June 28th. The Lightning will be taking on the Canadiens at home. The Lightning are the higher seed here once again, so they will have home ice advantage. Game number two will be on Wednesday, June 30th. Game three, which will be the first one that'll be in Montreal, will be on Friday, July 2nd. Game number four, Monday, July 5th. Game five, back here in Tampa Bay. Wednesday, July 7th. Game six, which is in Montreal again, Friday, July 9th. And then if needed, a game seven we'll be back here in Tampa Bay on July 11th. So as of game 5, 6, and 7 are the if necessary games, but a pretty good schedule, I would say, Michael. There are no back-to-backs in this one. I believe there is a 2-day break, if I'm not mistaken, in between game 4 and 5, I think it is. So, but a good schedule nonetheless.
Yeah, really good schedule for both teams, I think. When you're looking at the way that the schedule is formatted, especially we try not to talk about last year because last year was just it was basically a condensed schedule. But there was a back to back in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Lightning had the opportunity to win the Stanley Cup on a back to back, which is something that I'm gonna be honest should never happen. So in this situation, you give some time to marinate, you give some time for both coaches to really try and implement their styles, talk about how the series is going, what they need to do to fix, what they're doing well. I like the way that the schedule is formatted. I know it's tough as a Lightning and a hockey fan in general to wait 48 hours or even more, 72 hours between games, but ultimately it's for the betterment of the sport. So very happy with the way that the schedule is put out.
And by the way, that 2-day gap, just a quick correction, it's between game 3 and game 4. So game 3 is on July 2nd and game 4 is on July 5th. So not every game is going to be every other day. It is interesting to me that they put that there, not like near a travel day or even just before game 1. I'm not sure if there's something else going on over in where the Canadiens are playing. I don't know on that, but nonetheless, it's not a bad thing to have that 2-day gap in between there. Maybe give some players some rest that may need it during that point. But that's the schedule nonetheless. So, Michael, normally here we would talk about our previous games against the Montreal Canadiens this year, but we did not play the Montreal Canadiens this year with all the teams playing within their own division and only playing outside of their division until round number 3. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to take a look just real quick at the last 3 times the Lightning played the Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So the most recent one was in 2015 in the conference semifinals, where the Lightning defeated the Montreal Canadiens in 6 games. 4-2 was the final in that one. The Lightning also played the Montreal Canadiens in the first round in 2014. We don't talk about that one, though. And then they also played the Montreal Canadiens in 2004, where they swept them. By the way, that was in the conference semifinals. And by the way, the one we don't talk about, the Montreal Canadiens did sweep the Lightning in 2014. So both teams have had a sweep under their belts, and the Lightning had the series tiebreaker, if you will, in the playoffs where they defeated the Montreal Canadiens in 6 games in 2015. So 2 times The Lightning had defeated the Montreal Canadiens. They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and now they're meeting them in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, and you could take all of those previous playoff series and maybe with the exception of 2015, throw them all away. The 2015 one has some of the key pieces for both sides still on the team. Like Carey Price is still a mainstay with the Canadiens. Steven Stamkos and Victor Hedman are still a part of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But ultimately, that series as well, like that doesn't have a lot of the same pieces for either side.
Absolutely.
Now, what I will say is that the recent times that the Lightning have played the Canadiens, whether it was in the 2020 season, 2019, even as far back as 2018, because, you know, that's probably where you want to go in terms of stopping major roster construction wise. All those games have been close. Like in the regular season, all those games have been close. Carey Price has made some unbelievable saves. There was one game where Adam Ernie, who isn't on the team anymore, was the hero and he scored 2 goals, including a goal with a minute left to win the game for the Lightning. There's been some really tight games between these teams. And for the most part, since 2019, 2020, at least, these teams have stayed the same. Canadians have had more roster change than the Lightning, but they've stayed the same. So I think this series is going to be fascinating. And the previous playoff series, if you're the Lightning, you could build on it and say, listen, John Cooper used to be the head coach in 2015. Look at what happened. We overcame what happened in 2014 and we beat this team. You're the Canadians. You say, okay, what did we do in 2015? How can we change it here in 2021? It's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, no question about that. And you're right. A lot of the games have been close as of late against these teams. And the Lightning have won recently. They've won more games, but again, as you mentioned, you can throw all this stuff away. Even if we played them this year, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because this is the playoffs. This is the Stanley Cup, so you really can't look at that stuff and get a good idea. But it is fun to look at. But let's move on to the team stats so far in these playoffs. So starting off with goals for per game, Montreal Canadiens 2.53 goals per game, and for the Lightning 3.22. So they lead the Canadiens in that statistic. Goals against per game, pretty close. Montreal Canadiens with 2.18. And for the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2.06. The Lightning do lead in that category as well. As for the power play, Montreal Canadiens with a 20.9% on the power play. Pretty respectable for them. They've done pretty well, I think, than more people would have expected at 20.9%. Then the Lightning at 37.7%. So down a little bit from their 40% mark, but they still 37.7, the best in the NHL. Very, very good power play. And then as for the penalty kill, it's the only spot where the Canadiens lead it, but they lead it by a pretty wide margin, as the Canadiens penalty kill is the best in the NHL in the playoffs at 93.5%, Lightning at 83%. So some interesting stats there. The Lightning definitely lead on more stats when it comes to that, but the Canadiens are really good penalty kill, and we could probably sit here and say, though, Michael, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because, again, it all depends on how you play in these final 7 games here.
Yeah, the penalty kill for Montreal has been outstanding, and it's been that way probably since Claude Julien got fired and Dominic Ducharme took over from Montreal. And in the playoffs, they've kicked it up another gear. They have some fantastic penalty killers. For the Lightning, their penalty kill isn't too shabby either. We talked about this in our Game 7 recap of the Lightning and Islanders, but Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman might be the best penalty kill duo in the NHL, while the Canadiens might have a more well-rounded unit of forwards and defense, 1 and 2 in their penalty kill units. Ultimately, the power play is going to be big for both teams. You're not going to get a lot of opportunities in the Stanley Cup Finals to score power play goals. So when you have the opportunity and there's a penalty called against the other team, you have to capitalize on it. This does not mean as well that just Stamkos or Hedman or Shea Weber or someone like Jesperi Kotkaniemi, if he's on the power play, or Corey Perry, they have to score. it has to be the depth guys. It has to be someone like Gord or Sergachev on the second unit. Not very well versed in the Montreal Canadiens second unit power play, but those guys have to score as well. If you waste opportunities, it's going to be bad for you. So ultimately, they're going to have to score on the power play for both sides if they want any shot of winning a couple of games in this series.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to watch the league's best power play go up against the league's best penalty kill. It'll be interesting to see how that matchup pans out. But nonetheless, let's take a look at, Michael, your difference makers for this series. Michael, let's start off with the Lightning. I'll go for both of them, and then we'll start off and go into detail on one of them first. But Michael, for the Tampa Bay Lightning, you selected Andre Palat, who has 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points in 18 games played so far this year. And then for the Montreal Canadiens, you selected Cole Caulfield, who has been amazing for the Canadiens in these playoffs. He also has 4 goals and 5 assists for 9 total points in 15 games played. So, Michael, let's start with Andre Palat. Why did you select him as your difference maker?
So when the Lightning won the Stanley Cup last year, Andre Palat was a distant third on the triplets 2.0 line of Palat, Kucherov, and Braden Point in points. Kucherov and Point were way ahead of him, but Andre Palat was second in team goals. He had 11, and he had those 11 in, let's see, 5 against Boston, 6 against the Islanders, 6 against the Stars. He had 11 goals in 17 games. So far in these playoffs, Andre Palat only has 5 or 4 goals. And the Lightning are going to need him to score more often if they want to win, because he is a vital member of that first line. Nikita Kucherov is very much playing through an injury right now, which we don't know if he's going to be healed up by game 1 on Monday. Braden Point can only do so much himself. Damn if he isn't trying, because he's already tied his goal record from last year. But Andre Palat is going to need to step it up, especially if when Kucherov is not 100%, and if Kucherov happens to possibly, worst case scenario, miss a game, they're going to need Palat a lot.
And to be fair, I think to Palat, last year he was on that first unit power play, replacing Steven Stamkos, which I think factored into a little bit of him scoring goals, but it would be nice to see him get some more points on the board for the Lightning. And then, Michael, for the Montreal Canadiens, you selected Cole Caulfield, which has been a story, even at his small height and weight, because he's not a big guy, kind of like another Lightning player that I know, and Marty St. Louis, or even Braden Point. Braden Point's not the biggest guy either, and look what he can do. But Cole Caulfield is playing fantastic right now. He's a big part of this Montreal Canadiens one. He's your difference maker for the Canadiens.
Yeah, Cole Caulfield, less than 2 months ago, was playing college hockey, which to me is just insane. He was playing at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And 2 months later, he's about to play in the Stanley Cup Finals. Was a half point a game player in the regular season. Has changed the dynamic of the Canadiens, in which he might not score every game, but he's a threat and he's going to get a scoring chance every game. We talked so much about in the previous series Matthew Barzal, which we tried to talk about him as little as possible because we knew NBC was going to talk about him for 7 games. But one of the things that we talked about was the Islanders have a style, and Matt Barzal is the only one that says, no, I'm not going to play that way. And that throws teams for a loop. Cole Caulfield does the same thing for the Canadiens. He is exceptional with the puck. He destroys defenders with his quick movements and his small stature. He's only 5'7". He's my height. Like, come on. But he allows the Canadiens to say, okay, we're going to take our identity as a good defensive team and we're just going to squeeze every part of it. Now they're not as good as as the Islanders are at it, but they also have Carey Price in that. So Cole Caulfield knows that the defense is going to be good and that Carey Price is going to be good. So it allows him to have free range on the ice. His goal in game 6 against the Canadians, or against the Golden Knights, excuse me, one of the best goals of these playoffs with what he's able to do with the puck, how he's able to get by guys. He's able to pinpoint shots. He's ultimately one of my favorite players in the league right now because he's this phenomenon and he's exciting to watch every shift he's on the ice. So the Lightning are going to have their work cut out for them, and hopefully they get it done.
He's definitely a fun player to watch, no question about it. I'd probably be rooting for him a little bit if the Lightning weren't in it, but luckily we are, so we don't have to worry about that. But one quick note before I get to my keys to this series: one player that we will not have in the Stanley Cup Finals that would have been playing for the Canadiens is Jonathan Drouin. As he left the playoffs early for I think it was a family situation, which is unfortunate for him. Obviously, wish him all the best. Hope he's doing well. But he is not playing in this series, which is, you might say it's big for the Canadiens, but they've done well without him. And maybe Cole Caulfield never gets his chance that he does if Jonathan Drouin is playing. But they will not have Jonathan Drouin. But let's go to my keys to the series before we wrap up this video. So starting off with my number one key to the series, it's score 5-on-5. Because, Michael, as we talked about, despite the Lightning have one of the best power plays in the NHL, especially in the playoffs, well, you're not going to get many penalty calls as it is, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals. We saw it's kind of like it was in Game 7 for the Bolts against the Islanders. You're not going to get a lot, and the the Canadiens have a very good penalty kill. So you're definitely going to need to take advantage of your chances 5-on-5 because you may not get many on the power play. Number 2 for my keys to the series is screen Carey Price. Michael, as you mentioned, Carey Price, one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. We're going to get some goalie duels between Price and Andrei Vasilevsky, but you need to get traffic in front of Price so you can grab those rebounds. He doesn't give many, but when they do, you want to be there to be able to jump on top of them. And then for number 3, I have be active on the power play. I know we've talked about that a lot, but you got to keep moving. You got to be active because when you do get those power play chances, because you will get some, you want to make sure you can capitalize on those because there probably won't be many. Michael, your thoughts on these keys to the series for the Bolts to try and win this one and take home a second Stanley Cup?
Yeah, they were 100% correct. All 3 of them. I really think that if you're going to beat Carey Price, he needs to have his eyes taken away. And you could say the same thing about Montreal. If you want to beat Andre Vasilevsky, you need to screen him. He did allow some soft-ish goals where he saw where the puck was going in the Islanders series. And then he decided, I'm not going to allow any more goals. And he shut the Islanders out in 2 of the last 3 games. So the power play has to be good. The 5-on-5 play has to be good. I'm not asking for every single game to be a shutout 8-0 victory like it was in game 5 against the Islanders. But I think if the Lightning play their game and they shut down the young guns, Caulfield, Kotkaniemi, Thomas Tatar to an extent if he's allowed to play in the Stanley Cup Finals, Alexander Romanov, Nick Suzuki, those young guns, if they shut them down defensively, Lightning are going to have a pretty decent chance to take home their second consecutive Stanley Cup.
Wow, what a moment that would be. But we're not there yet. Got to win 4 more games. By the way, another key to the series for the Canadiens is if you get to a elimination game where the Lightning have 3 wins, don't let Andrei Vasilevsky get a shutout because that's when he shines his best in those elimination games. But nonetheless, that's going to do it for us, guys, in today's video. Let us know in the comments down below how you feel. Give me your predictions. I want to know what you think. Bolts and what? Or maybe you don't think the Bolts are going to win. But let me know in the comments down below. And Michael shaking his head. No, we all know you think the Bolts are going to win. But let us know in the comments down nonetheless. Be sure to leave a like on this video if you did enjoy. It really helps us out here on YouTube. Let us know you're enjoying these videos. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on future videos just like this one. We'll have game recaps after every game, just like we have this whole entire playoff run so far. And with that said, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, your Tampa Bay Lightning are your defending Stanley Cup champions.
Bolts.